Okay, guys, welcome back to Meet the Candidate 2023. I am your host, Jared Moore, and tonight's program we have Second Chief Del Beaver. It's going to be a little bit different tonight just because we've had some questions here pop up in the chat before we started, and I wanted to make sure that I get those questions in and they don't get flooded out of the chat before I have a chance to read them. So, and I've spoken to Second Chief Beaver about it. He's okay with it. So we're going to jump in and get these questions from the chat done first, and then I'll ask the general questions. And if you have a question, you're watching this, you have a question, pop it into the chat. We'll ask it as long as it's relevant. So to start off with, the first question is TY Prol asks, do you support greater federal protections against pretendian fraud in Indian-made products and services like the changes currently in review to the Indian Arts and Crafts Act?
I think the short answer is, of course I do. That's one of the things that we have been actively, fighting against, actively lobbying, maybe the best word, against is, we see back, especially back in our homelands, back in the Southeast, overall, we see there's like a surge of these groups that are claiming to have Mvskoke heritage, and so they're campaigning their local elected officials to get recognized as a state recognized tribe. Mm-hmm. We don't feel that they are a tribe at all, and so we have been lobbying back in the Southeast, back in our homelands, to really just let the locals know, to educate them on what really happened, and that these groups that are out there, that they are pretendians. They're pretending to be us. But I think we all know that whenever we came over here on the trail, that we took our culture, we took our language, and we took our history with us. And so if they really want to know about the people in that area, all they have to do is just pick up a phone, and call us. We're still around. And so that's on the bigger picture. Yes, that we are lobbying against those pretendians, then it filters down into artwork and fake art and those types of things. Because God has gifted many people different talents. And I had actually had this conversation with the curator that's over the OU museum over there in Norman on mm-hmm. campus. He was proclaiming that they have one of the largest collections of Native American art in the world. And so I asked him, I said, well, how do you determine that it's Native American art?
Right.
What is your process to determine that it's Native American art? Mm-hmm. And they didn't have a process.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. Well, I said, so well, that's probably your first step that you should do is, consult with the tribes. We got 39 really recognized tribes here in Oklahoma. So how come you don't consult with the tribes about what is considered true Native American art? Mm-hmm. And so that I think right there that's where we have to build those bridges. Where when people say, "Oh yeah, this is Native American art," well, who says it is? How do you, what was your, especially these museums, mm-hmm. Just because it came from somebody that says they are part of a tribe doesn't mean it's Native American art. And right. So, and then you kind of blur the lines of what exactly is art. Some what they consider art might be something they've looted from a funerary object.
Right. Yeah.
So who's more prepared and qualified to answer what is Native American art than Native Americans, than the tribes that represent it. So yeah, I do support more federal legislation, but I support more local legislation. I support more if that legislation gives power to the tribes to determine what is Native American art. That's what I support, really, is give the power to the tribes, and don't let the feds determine that. We should determine that.
Okay, sounds good. You kind of answered the next question on the list here. But I'm going to read it anyway. It's from TY Prol as well. It says, what is your general opinion? What is your general opinion of pretendianism and defendianism? Do you believe that self-identification should be valid enough? What is your opinion on state but not federally recognized tribes? I think you pretty much answered that. The next question from TY Prol is, do you support making Council Oak Park a U.S. and Mvskoke Nation national monument? What are the plans for the Council Oak ceremony Do you support the proposed Tulsa First Nations district with Dreamkeepers Park?
All right, so let's go back to that first question.
The first one is the Council Oak a national monument?
Yes. I would say yes. I would support that it be a national monument because that's a big undertaking, though. I mean, it's easy to sit here and say yes, I would support it, but there's a lot of heavy lifting that has to go on before it actually gets to a national park or have that designation. And so there's various layers of what you can designate it as, and so I guess ultimately, yeah, we would like to have it a national park, and we're fighting to get Okmulgee Mounds back in Macon, Georgia, a national park. And so yeah, I would say, I mean, on the front, yes, absolutely. But I just want people to know that it's just not that easy. There's different various layers of that, and it's a lot of heavy lifting. It's a congressional action, and so yes, I would support that definitely. And what's the other question?
The next question is, how about Council Oak ceremony? What are the plans for Council Oak ceremony?
We didn't have it, during the COVID years. But last year we had the Council Oak ceremony, and it went pretty well. I think people enjoy it, and I think it's one of those deals where people kind of forget. We don't forget what Council Oak tree means, but maybe the people in the area, the city of Tulsa, might forget what it means.
Yeah.
And so I think it's very important that we do have that ceremony every year, just to remind people exactly what Council Oak means to not just us, but the city of Tulsa itself.
Absolutely. And then the next part of that question was, do you support the proposed Tulsa First Nations district with Dreamkeepers Park?
Tulsa First Nations district with Dreamkeepers Park. I have to be honest, I'm not exactly sure what that means. I have to study up on that.
Yeah, I think what T.Y. Pearl's referring to there is, I think there is some things going through the Native American committees and things to go to the Tulsa City Council to have a district of downtown Tulsa around Dreamkeepers Park renamed Tulsa First Nations District.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, like I said, anytime that something is renamed in honor of the tribes, I think it should have tribal input. So that's something that's really not on my radar right now. But I mean, in general, I do support those things, but I also support that it needs to have tribal input.
Yeah.
So I apologize that's not on my radar, but it can get on my radar pretty quick though, if need be.
All righty. The next question here is, T.Y. Pearl asks, do you feel that we should continue to support funding the Jinx Dam when the mayor of Tulsa reliably and repeatedly betrays our good faith with examples like the Hooper appeal?
I think there is a misconception about the Jinx Dam. The tribe, the nation, is not in the business of building dams. And so whenever, at the end of last year, I believe, whenever we passed, I think it was last December before then. Either way, whenever the nation went into an agreement with the city, what we did was this agreement between the nation, the city of Tulsa, and the city of Jinx to create a TIF district, a tax increment financing district. And what it does is whenever you add water to a water body like the Arkansas River, and that's what this dam was going to do. Let me back up a little bit. I believe this is how the way it went is that Tulsa passed a bond back in 2018 or so where they had all these projects, right? And one of them was the Jinx Dam, a low water dam on the Arkansas River down by Jinx. Well, the bond passed. They had the money for the dam, but they didn't have any money for the upkeep of the dam. And so the city of Tulsa has been coming to the nation for a long time. I think ever since the Tiger administration, asking for money for upkeep with this dam. And it started out, I want to say, like at $18 million that the city of Tulsa was asking the nation for.
Right.
And so I was in some of those meetings and we're like, we can't do it. It's not going to happen. And so, like every year, they'd come back to the nation, and it would get kind of lower and lower and lower.
Right.
And so, even during the Floyd administration, it came back, got lower, lower, and lower. And so, at the end of last year, they were, I believe this is the way it was, is written in that bond, was that if they didn't have the money, if they didn't secure the money for the upkeep of that dam, then that money that was for the dam would go to other projects.
Right.
And so this is at the 11th hour, that if by I think end of December, if they didn't have that money secured, then it would be let go. And so that's when they came to us with a TIF, a TIF district. And what that did is that we agreed to it, but it's based upon ad valorem taxes, property taxes.
Right.
And so when we add water to that area, then the property taxes go up, right? It's waterfront property.
I see.
And so those taxes that have increased above whatever the tax is now, and let's just say it went from like $1 a year to now it's like $2 a year. Well, that extra dollar goes towards the dam, the upkeep of the dam. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so anything above that the water creates goes towards the benefit of the dam. Okay, that's what a TIF does, and it even goes for certain sales tax, certain percentage of sales taxes, those types of things. And so that's what we agreed to, is that if there's any taxes that we pay into the state on any of our properties, then a portion of that will go towards the dam. And so we're not paying for anything. The tribe is not paying for anything. It's the people, it's the patrons that pay for it. And that's for people that pay for all along that waterfront, not just us, but everybody that visits the waterfront. And so there's actually studies done that when there is water in the river, then there's an increase of people going to visiting those stores, visiting those properties. Yeah. There's a significant increase, and so it really works out. But there's also a sunset on that TIF. Let's just say I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think it's like $16 million or something like that. Mm-hmm. So it's either a TIF only lasts a certain amount of time, which is maybe 20 something years. It's state law. It's either 20 something years or something, or until you get that amount of money, whichever comes first.
Okay.
So it's not forever, and so I do support having water in the Arkansas River, because we have the river walk. We have, our casino, obviously. We do have other property along the river. Mm-hmm. And so it benefits us, But I just want to make it clear that we're not in the dam business, right? We're not paying anything out of our coffers, out of our permanent fund or anything else to go towards that, okay? It's the people that are visiting those businesses that will actually pay for it.
All right, pretty clear cut. I'm going to go to the next question here. Creek Pride 23 asks, Attorney General Wisner was sanctioned and personally fined $500 for intimidation of the Mvskoke Nation Court on July 3rd, 2023. Why has she not been fired or forced to resign?
I guess my following question would be, have they listened? Were they there to listen to the conversation? Did they were they able to get a transcript of the conversation between the judge and Attorney General Wisner?
Well, I was in court. I was there for it.
Right. I mean, so was it contentious?
What do you the discussion between the judge?
That's what. For me to say that she should be fired because she was fined and because she because she threatened a judge, we take that seriously, but we also looked into it, right?
Okay.
And I didn't see anything that threatened the judge. She didn't say, "Hey, I'm gonna beat you up," did she? Okay. Well, so I didn't see anything or read anything that said that she threatened the judge. And so I think that when people take, maybe a headline on face value and don't get more information, then it's a little misleading.
Well, to clarify just on that point, what happened in this instance is A.G. Wisner had formally introduced into the record for the judge the updated procedures from the Supreme Court for the removal of a judge.
Right.
and the judge asked A.G. Wisner and the other lawyers there, why are you submitting this to me? Which there wasn't really any response to that. They said, well, it's our due diligence to give you this article. And the judge was saying, well, I get these anyway because this is an administrative order, because it feels like you're trying to tell me that I'm going to be removed. And there wasn't ever really an explanation from the parties why that wasn't the case. And so that's kind of like why that sanctions came down. But it does affect their ability or the sanctions fines, right, are fines that are issued from the MCN bar. So it's going to affect their ability in the future as in relation to the bar if they don't pay those fines or if there's a long drawn out thing about that. So I guess that's the question from the.
Yeah, and by judging based on what you told me, I don't think it warrants being let go. I think you got to have more conversations. Anytime you affect somebody's livelihood, or anytime you talk about letting somebody go, you got to have those deeper conversations, and you got to do your due. I have to do it, my due diligence. That'd be unfair to me.
Right. Well,
unfair to everybody. So.
And I'm not going to speak for the person asking the question, but I think the sentiment here is from the citizen's perspective, right? Is the AG works for them. Right, and if you had a personal lawyer that was prosecuting a case for you or prosecuting a civil lawsuit, that in the course of that case, they got sanctioned and you lost the case or whatever, and they made the judge angry at them in the process, and that, to the point where they got sanctions, are you going to fire that lawyer? Are you going to stay on with that lawyer? And because the citizens are saying that's our lawyer, what's going on here?
Right. So, that's probably a conversation we can have that's longer than we get time we have.
Because, yeah.
And really,
probably so. That's true.
It's like, well, if it's my personal lawyer and I lost it, then why would you keep him on, right? Or do you do more harm than good to fire your lawyer in the middle of a hearing, right?
Right.
So
the hearing's concluded.
More questions,
yeah.
Right. So there's more questions that need to be answered, and there needs to be more information supplied.
Okay.
And so,
well, what information would it take for what would you like to see before you thought that you were like, well, we need to do something about the person, the AG, like what's missing from the?
From my understanding, they had a recess and they talked them back.
Yes, but that was before the sanctions order and all of that stuff. So
it was after. It was. Once they gave the information, didn't they have a recess and they talked him back?
Well, what happened, chronologically in court, before court started, the AG's office, and it was my brother-in-law, Clint Wilson, so everybody knows, but that he had shown Mr. DeMario the administrative order from the Supreme Court. This is before court started. And then when the judge came in, both parties, what the judge said, well, I want to try to go fast. So the judge said, I've read your briefs on these motion for sanctions. This is sanctions for the AG's office because they did not follow a court order from earlier in the process in discovery. So the court had already issued an order saying you need to produce these documents that the AG had not followed. So she let DeMario get up and she's told both parties, I'm not going to hear argument about your motion for sanctions, but if you have any information to add, I'm going to give you a moment to get up. So DeMario got up and he said, I don't really have anything to add other than this is irregular. He sat down, and then the AG's office got up and they presented the administrative order, at which point the judge asked them, why are you presenting this to me? And they said, well, we'd like to go into chambers and have a discussion about it. So they went into chambers and had a discussion about it, and then they came out, and then the judge had some more on the record. That's where the exchange happened, where they were like, where it was all on the record, and they were saying, why are you presenting this? And then The judge asked them if they would like to formally introduce this to the judge as information, which Mr. Pittman said that he would, after Mr. Wilson and A.G. Weisner said that they will not do that. So that's how it got formally entered into the record. And then that's after all of that point is where the judge said, well, I'm going to issue my order on this. And then the order came out with the sanctions. So that's just chronologically what happened. So.
Right.
With that being said, I think we've covered this. I'm gonna go on to the next question here. It says, do you believe a Mvskoke Nation judge ordered fines dictating where and what Mvskoke Nation budget or department it is levied from is judicial overreach, usurping executive authority, and violating separation of powers? I think what they're saying is, that's from T.Y. Prohl. I think what they're saying is that when the judge ordered the sanctions, the personal fines on each of the lawyers, she ordered that they, as individuals, pay their fines, and they can't take that money from any budget of the nation.
Right. Okay.
So
that seems fair to me.
Okay. So you're okay with what the judge ordered in that particular instance?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We've gotten to the end of the questions from the chat. If you guys have any more questions, pop them in there. I'll try to get to them because we're running out of time here. What does the next 4 years for your second term look like, Second Chief? What's the plans?
The plans is, well, one, we just this past Saturday we passed the Cultural Act, where we're creating our cultural department. So that's really what I would like to focus on the remaining of this year. Because we don't know what's going to happen, right? And so that's what I really like to focus on, is getting that up and going, getting that to see what it's going to look like. Because I mean, this is, to me, and this is a personal thing, is that I think it's really a landmark piece of legislation to create this culture department, and what it's going to look like in the future. And so, I would like to get as much input, from the players that's going to be involved in this as possible. We just actually going to have a meeting to talk about it, I believe Monday, I think. But to see, start kind of feeling this legislation out and kind of start working it and massaging it and getting this thing going, because we can't wait, and it kind of goes back to that first question about the pretendians, and so we got to make sure that this is for me. This is something that I've wanted to do for a long time, and so that will be one aspect. Another aspect is we had a meeting just this morning about our youth specifically, and creating opportunities for our youth through sports. We do a good job of creating opportunities through education, through those avenues. But we got resources there here in Okmulgee at the Nation, at the Omniplex. We got ball fields. We got a really, really nice basketball court, and so how can we use those to our advantage to provide opportunities for our youth? And so the discussion was, how do we create our own maybe sports leagues, our own sports organizations, where we are providing opportunities for our youth and for maybe Native youth in general around here, because my daughter is on a youth, is looking for a new team right now. And when you go out and look for these organizations, you have to go to Broken Arrow, you have to go to Wasso, you have to go to Oklahoma City, Norman. It's at least an hour away. And so where are those organizations around here for our kids, where our parents don't have to travel, an hour on a Tuesday or on a Thursday or on a Wednesday, and you're getting home at 9:30, 10:30 at night. And so I feel that those opportunities are not here locally, and so if they're not here locally and we can do something about it, then we should.
Absolutely.
So that's a conversation we had this morning, and we're going to start moving forward with that, and what it's going to look like. What do we need? What policies do we need? And it's more than just creating athletes. We want to create student athletes. Our kids have to know what it means to be, if they want to play college ball, whether it be softball, whether it be baseball, whether it be basketball, or even football, They have to learn how to have budget their time. They have to be able to make sure that they can do the things that they need to do to stay in school, to have good grades. So, so we want to give our kids those opportunities and to actually teach them those things also, so that they can go out and go and maybe even just leave the reservation, right? And get an education and get those life experiences. And if they want to come back and share those life experiences to kids that have gone through the same program, how great is that? You know, how great is that? So that's the idea, is if we invest in our kids now when they're 14, 15, 16, 17, how much will we have to invest in them when they're 30, 35, 40? Yeah. Hopefully when they're that age, we're not investing in them, but they're investing back into themselves, back into the nation.
Yeah,
right.
I think that's
so. That's the mindset.
Yeah, we had a question pop up earlier that kind of got lost in the shuffle, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it now. Ty Prohl asks, "Are you at all concerned that Arkansas River quality is not being tested within the Tulsa city limits, where the Zinc and Jinx lakes will be created? Do you support Mvskoke Nation testing for safety?"
I grew up in Jinx. Right, I grew up literally half a mile from the Arkansas River. Even back then, we would, as kids, me and my neighborhood buddies would go and fish in the Arkansas River. We never kept anything we caught. That was in the mid '80s.
Right.
And so has the water quality gotten any better? I think it has, actually. But there's people that fish, up on the 21st Street Bridge, and I don't know if they keep it or not. I don't know. I just know we didn't back in the mid '80s.
Right.
But we do have more than just a say. We have a stake in water quality, not just on the Arkansas River, but everywhere within the reservation.
Yeah.
And so my background is environmental. I spent 16 years in the environmental field. I've done water quality testing. So absolutely, I support our own environmental department collecting water samples and seeing what's out there and see how well that water is.
All right. We have one more question I'm going to do, and I'm going to ask you to keep it short just because we're running out of time and I want to get it in. But the question's pretty simple. Why do you think you are a better choice than Sandra Golden? And that's coming from Creek Pride 23.
I don't want to say I'm a better choice. I'm just, I would just lay my resume out there and show what I've done. I do have 23 years of tribal experience. The last 23 years I've worked for tribal governance, with the last 18 years being specifically with the Creek Nation, with the Mvskoke Creek Nation. I have 4 years of legislative experience. I'm in my 4th year as a second chief. My whole life basically is focused on our Native people. On the national level, I'm a representative for the Eastern Oklahoma tribes on the Secretary Deb Holland's STAC committee, which is the Secretary's Tribal Advisory Committee. That's the first time she's ever had a committee like that, and I'm a representative on there. I'm a representative for the Tribal CDC TAC committee. I'm a representative for IHS Budgetary Formulation Committee, and so when you say, I'm not, like I said, I'm just putting my resume out there, and that this is what I've done in 3.5 years so far. We've gone through the pandemic, we've gone through McGirt. We're still going through that, we've done all these things those first 2 years, and so look at what we've done in the last 1.5 years, right? When we didn't really have to focus so much of our energy on those things the first 2 years. Yeah. And so we've done a lot of things. And so like I said, I'm not comparing myself to Representative Golden. I'm just putting my resume out there and say, hey, look, this is what I've done. This is what I can do. I'm an advocate for Indian country. I'm an advocate for Mvskoke Creek Nation. And so this is who I am, and this is what I just let my resume and what I've done speak for itself.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we are right at 30 minutes, so we're going to get out of here. We have I might be, just as for the audience there, we're all done tonight, and I've got probably a Lawyered Up coming on Friday or maybe on Monday of next week, so keep an eye out for that. And then next week, we're also going to have a live wire about an art exhibit in Santa Fe on Wednesday at 6 p.m. So keep your eyeballs open for that. And with that being said, Mado, Second Chief, and Mado, everybody. And we'll see you later. Chihit Lees.